No.
Yeah. That's
Start talking. Go. We're very formal when we start too. I'm like, we're recording, sit down, and go. All right. Welcome back to Talk Fit if you're new here. I'm Josh. I'm CrossFit Level 3 trainer, general manager here at Grand Mesa CrossFit. And
Rebecca Remus, owner of Grand Mesa CrossFit, newly minted Level 3. So.
Yay! Official now. I don't know the last time.
I think we did one since then, but still.
Yeah, it was like we didn't have the paper. Anyway, now we have it.
It was hard, so.
She's official. And we have a new face with us today. This is Laura, one of our members. You want to give yourself a little intro? Like, tell us about yourself. What do you want us to call you?
How long have you been with Grand Mesa?
I've been with Grand Mesa almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So September will be officially 2 years I've been at Grand Mesa. I just moved to Texas 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it took me like a month or two to kind of find my CrossFit home.
So let's start there. Yeah. So you're from Cali. Tell us how life was in Cali and your background, because you got your fitness obviously started in Cali. So yeah.
So grew up in fitness. I played baseball, I played softball. I actually ran cross country 10 years, which is really the background and foundation of kind of what we're here.
What position playing softball?
I was best utilized at first base.
I would imagine, because you're tall.
Long,
yeah.
I could scoop it.
Could you do the splits?
Yeah. I still
Show us. No.
I love
later.
that.
That's the extra show.
The outtake. No. But my favorite position was actually catcher.
Okay.
Because I was involved on every play. So that's I needed to be busy.
I love this. I just learned that. I had no idea you had that background. So,
I mean, I actually played every position except for pitcher because I just couldn't keep it over the plate. But I had to be involved. They put me out in the field, and I was unfortunately that kid staring at.
I think we all were at some
the
point.
glove on their head.
Finding those flowers.
I don't know. My dad was not about me being the girl finding the flowers out. That he was like, no, let's get you in. So baseball, softball. I did run cross country for 10 years. So I ran cross country from second grade, which they actually said I was in third grade, so that I could run it all the way up through all the way up through my senior year. I wasn't great at it, but it was just kind of something that I had done for so long. So it was just kind of my structure, my rhythm. And school, once school started, it was cross country. So the 10-mile-a-days was in Fresno. So I grew up in Fresno originally, which Fresno and Texas are very similar, like heat-wise. So 110 in August is like late July, like we'll hit 114 in Fresno. So I grew up in Fresno for 26 years. Hot summers, cold winters.
Here is California with my limited geography.
We're the armpit.
So that's so funny.
Fresno's the armpit, like right in the middle, Central Valley.
Yeah, so it's no secret that we've had like migration of people from California to Texas in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. The NorCal, we're NorCal. No, we're SoCal. Like, they don't. You have to make sure you know, like, or we know that we're from.
It's like DFW, Houston.
They're all very different parts. So I grew up in Fresno, Central California, which is very much so like one type of, not very much so, but a lot of kind of one type of person. And then I moved up to the Bay Area, which is a very different type of person. Or different kind of, like, just a different area, like you said, Dallas to Houston.
Right,
Different areas, different parts of the state. So I actually lived in the Bay Area. I lived in South San Jose for 6 years. Actually, I lived in Santa Clara first, and then we moved to South San Jose, but it's all like, I mean, you cross the street, you're in the next town kind of thing. So I was there for 6 years. That's where I found my job and my kind of passion, and that's where everything really kind of took off for my adult life.
So what was that first job in fitness?
So it kind of gets into my racing background a little bit, but I became an Orange Theory coach.
Right.
That's I became a member in 2017 because I was looking for something to make me better at racing.
Mm-hmm.
And they had running, they had lifting, and I had just kind of joined like a little HIIT class right before I moved up to the Bay Area, and that was my first kind of taste of like stations or like lots of different things and like class-based fitness, and I loved it. But then I moved, and I was like, I need to find something that because I'm also one that goes to the gym, and I just start looking up. There you go, in the outfield again. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
What is this?
I know how to do it, but like I don't know what to do. And so I had been out of school for so long too. I was about 26, I think, when I moved to the Bay Area, and I found Orange Theory. A bunch of my other friends were joining, and so they were like, hey, like, let's go. And I quickly became a Monday to Friday 6 a.m.er.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved that life. And I stayed that structure until I got pregnant, and I still went almost every day until I was about 7.5 months, and then it was one of those, like, your body lets you know when it's done. And it was done. And I was working retail full time at the time too, so I was like 7 months still working, and then it was going into Christmas time, and that's our, like, I mean, I was working 60 hours a week in the month of December also doing, so I was like, we're not, working out's gone, we're not doing that anymore.
So were you taking, like, I know right now you coach like multiple classes. Are we the same way up there? You were just like, man, I am taking on 5, 6. Oh my gosh.
Well, so what happened was I became a coach in October of 2019, and I had transitioned out of retail, and after I had my daughter, I went to restaurant, and I was kind of restaurant bar management too, because once you're a manager, you're kind of always a manager too. And that just wasn't doing it. Like, as a mom too, as a, like, kind of a newer mom, I was like, all right, bar life that's not very good either. And after I had her, I ran back to Orange Theory. I remember my doctor, the day that I got cleared, she knew that I was there, and I was just sitting there, and she was just like, I know why you're here, and she's like, everything's going to be good. I was literally in Orange Theory class at 4:30 that afternoon.
You actually had the appointment at Orange Theory, with the doctor.
On my way home from Palo Alto, I was just like, book class. There. So it was like a quick return, and it was just kind of like, I loved that, and that was my hour too outside of the house for a long time with her, and it was close, and so that was just, it just kind of became what I really loved to do, and it really re-sparked the passion of, like, kind of the inner athlete. Finally, I went to one of my favorite coaches, and I was like, hey, kind of considering becoming a coach. Like, what do you think? And I remember he looked at me, and he was just like, we've been wondering what took you so long.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
Why didn't you ask?
Yeah,
right?
I was
come on.
like, I mean, you could, whatever. But I was just like, oh, that's awesome. And so within that day, he got me hooked up with the right person through Instagram messages, and he was like, sending me to my guy. And it happened really fast from there. And then by end of February, I was completely out of restaurant, and I was full-time coach, and they knew that I was like, I want full-time. I mean, full-time is like 20 classes a week, but it's just a coach. Like, you kind of just come in, you deliver the template. You're usually there for like 3. They try to not have you coach more than 4 at a time, but like 2, 3, like maybe 4 at a time. And so you can just bust them out, and like I could open one place, have like the whole midday, and then I can go close another. But it was a little bit, I was split between a couple different studios so that I could kind of be full-time. But yeah, they knew, and that was the plan going into it. I was like, I want full-time coaching. This is what I love to do. And I love being a part of that community. So it was, easy to throw myself into.
So you got into your, when you're at Orange Theory, you started getting into like the Spartans and all of that.
Yeah. So I started getting into Spartans a little bit before that. So October 2014 was my very first race with my aunt up in Sacramento. And we had no idea what we had signed up for. She had shared shared this link. So some of the Spartan pictures, it's like this guy jumping over fire.
Yeah.
And we had done a few like fun races, and she was just like, hey, who wants to do this longer, like a 10K with me? And I didn't even really like register that, but she was like, do this 10K with me and jump over fire. And I was like, hi.
Fire jumping? Yes,
fire
please.
Jumping? Yeah, let's do that. And so we show up in Sacramento, and it was freezing cold. All the elites are coming off the course, and they're like shaking, and her and I are like, what do we do? We're out there. I'm in like cotton legging capris and like my Nike little, workout shoes, and we didn't know.
As you do for your first like race like that.
Clearly we were newbies.
Yeah.
And so we went out there. I mean, we did what we did.
Yeah.
And we were just like, oh, okay. But we both fell in love with it. She actually still runs. Like, she's like a big trail marathon runner. She lives up in Pacific Northwest now. Yeah.
Like those 50-miler people? Oh my gosh.
That's her. But like, go her. Yeah, she's doing that. I mean, I'm out here doing crazy things too.
Yeah.
But so we did our little Spartan journey start together. And we both kind of fell in love with it. I was just like, I could get into this. This is like recess for me. Like, you're telling me I just go run around, play in the mud, I climb a rope, and like go hang on monkey bars. Yeah. Like, this is literally taking me back to 5th grade, like recess. So it was easy. I was like, all right, like this is something I could do. And then kind of as I got into it a few more years, I was like, I could kind of be good. Like, if I really like tried, I want to do it, but like I want to be good at it.
Yeah.
And so the Orange Theory thing kind of came about. I looked at it and I was like, wait, no, this is kind of really good training for this.
Yeah.
Because it's, half the class is on a treadmill. So I'm like, I get mileage. And then the other half is, lifting weights. Nothing too heavy, but it's something that like kind of helps. And so in 2017, January, is when I joined as a member.
Okay.
And that was kind of
Yeah.
like, all right,
Okay.
this is to help me with my races.
Sweet.
But then it just kind of ended up being something that like I turned into my life.
Yeah.
So,
Passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At what point did you like, okay, I probably need to be a little bit stronger, because I know you got into CrossFit also when you were in Cali. So
Yeah. So my entrance into CrossFit was actually in large part due to COVID. This person that I used to know worked at NC Fit before COVID shut everything down, and I was full-time Orange Theory by then, and I was loving it. And I did the classes, and I had done like a drop in at NC Fit here and there with them, but then COVID shut everything down. And Orange Theory being indoors with treads and water rowers, like we had zero sign of opening anytime soon.
Yeah.
And the NC Fit Redwood City location opened in July, outdoor in the parking lot. So my first almost year of CrossFit was parking lot CrossFit.
That's awesome.
It was like Redwood City, like it was the big warehouse, and so like we only went inside if it were like pull-ups or but they actually had a rig outside.
Yeah.
So we could even do most of like that stuff outside, and so I was at Redwood City for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then they reopened outdoors at Campbell, and they had like the big tent, like a white, like just kind of just for shade. It's California still in summertime.
Yeah.
And so, we were pretty much predominantly outside. I mean, I've done deadlifts at 6 a.m. It's pouring rain, and the rain is just dropping off the tents and stuff. But I quickly fell in love with CrossFit too, because then like I'm not a small person, and now I'm picking up big things, and like the clang of the bar, and like I can again hang. It's like recess. I'm hanging off the bar again.
Yeah.
It's like reset. Like this is like a fun hour for me, and it was like now I'm chasing big numbers too.
Yeah.
So I kind of started chasing bigger numbers, and I'm like, wait, no, like I can squat more than like a 50-pound dumbbell.
Yeah.
Like I can put like weight on it.
I know that part I didn't know about Orange Theory. Like, there are workouts with dumbbells, but is there like a limit? Like, obviously.
So the largest dumbbells I have at my studio right now are 75s.
Okay.
So I have like one.
Still good size.
Which is that's a big dumbbell.
I mean, if there's deadlifts, like you could in theory.
Yeah.
But everything's dumbbells. So like we don't have a barbell. We don't have like anything to hang from. We have like TRX straps, BOSUs, and dumbbells.
Okay.
Are pretty much your like floor modalities, which is a decent amount. But the heaviest dumbbells are like I have one pair of 75s, like maybe 1 or 2 pairs of 70s. Every station has like up to either 20 or 25, and then like the big boy weight rack is over in the corner, which is like 30s or more.
Yeah.
So I mean, the potential is there.
Yeah.
But just not quite as much as here.
Right.
And same thing, for like the races, I need to be able to pull myself up and over a wall. And so it was one of those, even on the TRX straps, you can only kind of build so much.
Right.
Or like, with like bent over row kind of stuff, like you're never really going to get that kind of motion down.
Yeah.
And so after I found CrossFit, so CrossFit was July 2020, my first podium Spartan racing was February of 2021 in Jacksonville.
Jeez.
So I had
How'd
done
that
well.
feel? Jeez.
It was pretty wild. I remember I came in, I got 3rd place that race, and I came in, and there was a girl in front of me, and she was just like, "You just came in 2nd," and I was just like, "No."
There's a lot of people that do these like that. Yeah.
Well, so after COVID, there was like a big board shuffle, as in everywhere, everything, and so a lot of there were a lot of like the big names. Just also, it was still still early in COVID, like February 2021. Like we still had to wear masks in the festival area.
Yeah.
At the Spartan races outdoors in Florida.
Wow.
So it was kind of one of those, like, it was still kind of early on. There weren't, like, a ton of racers back quite yet.
Yeah.
So in my mind, too, I remember I made a post about it. I was just like, but the real people aren't here, and there's not many people, and there's, like, the whole, not identity crisis. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But, like, the imposter syndrome. And I'm just like, that's not really, like, but she can't. She was just like, no, you just came in 2nd. And I ended up getting bumped to 3rd because it's chip timing.
Oh.
So someone just, started a little bit after me and ended up, she edged me out. But still, like, I came in 3rd place, and I was like, I always was just like, oh, like, I'll never podium, but, like, top 10 would be cool. And then I'm just like, oh. Like, I would have never, I wasn't even really close. It was kind of a different, like, race setup pre-COVID, too. But either way, like, I was, like, top 25, maybe, pre-COVID and pre-CrossFit. And then, sure enough, first race back after, like, joining CrossFit. I podiumed in 3rd place in Jacksonville.
Join CrossFit if you're trying to podium on the Spartan races, everybody. That's what I heard.
No, I mean it did help a lot, right? Because like the stronger legs just is better for trekking through mud. The stronger legs are just for climbing the mountains that we climb.
Yeah.
The pulling at we actually do rope climb here.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know I could kind of do the foot thing, but I didn't really know the foot thing until you could really get into it and actually practice it. Yeah, there was just a lot I was good, and then I found CrossFit, and then I was great.
You are great. Say it. You're great.
You are great.
So
you are great. You are great.
You are great.
Yeah. Positive self-talk around.
Yeah.
Positive self-talk.
All right, so, at what point? So we're in 2024 now. What point do you start looking for a change as far as scenery?
It had been talked about. When I was just even pregnant with her, that we didn't want her to go to school while we were in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Her dad and I, we co-parent very well.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic co-parenting relationship. And we had actually split when she was 2, but the time was getting close. And I was like, we're kind of running out of 1-year leases to sign before she goes to kindergarten. And so Orange Theory being nationwide, we have global group chats and groups.
Cool.
And so I had posted up, I was like, hey, I'm considering moving to Austin. He works in IT, so he can find work here.
Yeah.
I've done restaurant, retail, and fitness. I'll find my way wherever you plant me. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I had posted. I was like, hey, I'm considering moving to Austin. If anyone knows someone, or if you guys are hiring. And Jenny, she still works with us, but she reached out to me and she's like, hey, I'm a regional there. Do you have a timeline? We have a ton of spots available. So I actually came out here President's Day weekend of 22. And I actually did an audition class. They were like, oh yeah. I was like, oh, I'll come take class and meet you guys. And they were like, oh, we'll just put you on the mic. And I was like, I mean, I had been a head coach for about 6 months by then, but they were like, we'll just put you on the mic. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. That's sure, we can do that. So I came out here, I basically coached an audition class, and they were like, we think you did fantastic. We have a spot for you whenever you're ready. Just keep us posted on your timeline. And then they reached back out to me in May, and they were like, hey, we actually have this head coach position available, coming up the end of the month. And I was like, I have to give 30-day notice in my apartment. I have some things to tie up here, but if I know that that option or that door is kind of there and fairly readily available, then we're happening. And so I kind of called Thomas. I was like, I got a job offer. I'm packing things up. We're going. You come or don't meet us later, or we can. So we actually packed everything up in the same 2 trailers, and
that's cool.
And we caravan out here together. And he found a fantastic job, and I've been with Austin Fitness Group ever since, because it's a large ownership group. We own pretty much all the whole Austin area. And so I kind of got planted and placed, and now I've coached everywhere here too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, so then actually just 2 years ago last week, we were pulling into town.
Man.
So
yeah,
it was get her here before she started school, and now she graduated kindergarten.
So I remember when you first came, you started doing the early classes with this, and I was like, she's fun. It's and I'm not by no means nowhere near the fittest, but it's always fun. Somebody chase, and I still have that, even at this age. But when you came in, it's oh yeah, she got a bar muscle up, and she's still good. She's not, not the tippy top in gymnastics, but still somebody really fun to have in the class and to chase. Oh, I'm not going to catch her, but whatever.
I always say I'm just good enough to mess up your day.
Yeah.
I'm not fantastic.
I like that.
I'm probably not going to win, but I'm just good enough to throw a wrench in your plans.
Yeah.
You're going to be thinking about me today.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, she's here.
I like that. Dang it. I thought I was going to,
So we're here now, living in Leander, Texas. I mean, really, really close now, where you live close to gym.
Yeah.
And we've got into, obviously, our longer Spartan races. You've done some CrossFit competitions too, which is really fun. So tell us about your recent competition that you've done.
So with CrossFit, last year was actually we didn't do any comps back at NC Fed, or even back really in California. I wasn't exposed to that world. So
that's cool.
Mardi Gras was my very first CrossFit competition ever last year.
Heck yeah.
And then I really dove into that last year. So I think I ended up doing 6 last year.
I know you did Iron Bell.
I did Duality. I did Power Hour. I did Rose City Ruckus up with Justin.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I don't know. Yeah, I ended up doing like a bunch of them last year because I fell in love with like immediately.
I just say there's way worse you can do things you can do on a Saturday.
So many worse hobbies I could
So
have.
many worse things, yeah.
And then for racing, I've always done the races. I had done my first ultra in actually Dallas in 2019 before I moved out here. And I just kind of walked it. It was my first like long time ever going that far on my feet at one time.
How far is an ultra?
50K.
50K.
So
I was thinking.
With penalty loops, if you fail obstacles and stuff, or we call them Spartan miles. I think it's usually around 32 to 35 miles is what like a Spartan 50K will end up being. So my first one, I kind of walked most of it, and I was totally fine with it. I was just like, just don't not finish for your first 50K. And I think it took me like 11 and a half hours. And I'm just, like having a good time out here doing fitness stuff. And then my second ultra was in Montana, which I love the Montana course. It was my second time doing the Montana course, and that was May of 2021. So that was during CrossFit. 3 weeks later is actually when I broke my ankle. In Nashville. And so like I remember coming back to my CrossFit gyms people, and they're just like, Laura, and I'm like, okay, well, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing like I know you had surgery since then, but there's nothing like residual like pain wise anymore, right?
Not pain wise.
Yeah.
A little stiff the few steps in the morning.
You just look like a shark got a hold of you.
Yeah, it's not the prettiest ankle you've ever seen. So I did the Montana race, and the Montana race is much more elevation. It's lots more ups and downs compared to Dallas. And I was still able to shave 30 minutes off my times, but it still took me like 11 hours. Wow. But I was also just kind of there. And Montana is a beautiful course. Montana is the prettiest course I've ever seen. Oh. So I'm also just walking around. I'm like, are you guys seeing this stuff?
Yeah.
Like you come over like a hedge, and there's like the lake out in front of you, and you're just like back in the backwoods, like because they like kind of just come through and like make your course within the shed. I'm just like, you guys are seeing this, right? Like this is cool. So I was just kind of there for Montana. But yeah, like 11 hours, and then my next ultra was Fiji. And so Alyssa and we went to Fiji last November, and we were supposed to do the Hawaii Ultra. They canceled that because the venue was actually a movie set, and some movie came in. It was just like, hey, we need that set, and clearly they're going to pay more than the person. So it was kind of one of those like, well, we're going to let the movie film. So they deferred us to next year. So that's this year's Ultra. That's in August. And then they were like, also for the inconvenience, we're giving free Ultra entries to anyone who is pre-registered. If you can make it to Fiji, you can race for free. So Alyssa and I kind of sat down with the dates, and we're like texting each other, and I was like, well, I can make that happen. And she's like, well, I think. And we're like, are we going to Fiji? Yeah. We're going to Fiji. So Fit Moms do Fiji. So we did that, and then like we were going to do open because we were just going to kind of hang out. And then I was like thinking more about it, and I was just like, I've never done like a competitive ultra because there's the open heats and there's the competitive heat. And competitive you're like held to the rule book, and like there's people and you have a different color headband kind of thing. And so I texted her, and when I did Montana, I looked at my time, and if I had ran competitive, I would have came in first place.
Oh my gosh!
Because girls don't do there's not a lot of girls who there's like the field is so small.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could have ran the same race because once I moved to competitive, I'm like, that's just the life that I live, right? That's the competitive. Yeah. Like I run my race by the rule book. Like I don't get help on the obstacles stuff. And so I was like, I could have ran the same race and came in first place, like girl overall.
Yeah.
And so I had to message her, and I was just like, hey, like, let's bump up to competitive. We could run the same race. We're in different age groups, so we could both still come in first. Yeah. And she was just like, I mean, if you think I could do it. And I was like, you're fit. I'm fit. Like, I know I don't like my extra training. We both kind of do the same stuff. And so she had agreed to do competitive. And game day, I'm ready for it. She ended up having some things that just weren't feeling right. Yeah. That long of a race, you just don't fight that.
Yeah.
And she was just like, she basically was like, I was like, I'm so sad. I'm like, I don't want to leave you. And she's just like, you have it today. Like, go. And so I actually ended up in first place in my age group. Yeah. My 34 miles in Fiji took me 8 hours and 44 minutes. Jeez. So I shaved 3 hours off my ultra time from 2021 to 2023.
I'm like so conflicted when I see the stuff y'all post on your stories. I'm like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. But then I turn into the Grinch, hate. Like these, like a long distance. Like I don't know.
Yeah. 8 hours is
it's out there. Yeah, you're just kind of trekking. And
but when you have you're right. Like I'd like to think if I were to sign up for like that, I would know to look up and enjoy the scenery.
Fiji, I mean, they had you like peek at like this peak of this island, and you just look out, and it's like you're just like this. No one else sees this stuff.
Yeah.
Like they take you on trails, and they like create these opportunities for you to see things that, unless you're doing that race, then not the average. No one's going to see that view with you.
Yeah.
So they're very special. It's very special times and special moments. I find.
The cool thing is you got to share this with one of your best friends, and y'all shared. Y'all just like as close as y'all were as friends, you're even closer now after that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing.
So that was, and then I since I've gotten kind of more into the ultras, and I've done a few. They're called Hurricane Heats through Spartan. And then there's like the longer Go Ruck events, which I've done a few as well, which are a little bit more kind of like mystery fitness events is kind of what I like to call them. So you get like your gear list about a month, or you get your gear list and basically a time and a place to show up.
Oh, how fun. But do you know like what the distance will be?
So the first Hurricane Heat I did was actually here in Austin in 2015 or 2016. Yeah. And I got my gear list and went where to show up. And all they say is it's going to be a 4 to 5 hour range. So you're going to be out there for 4 to 5 hours. Okay. So bring, food or snack, whatever you think you'll need. And expect team building activities, which I now have. I now call them like kind of just dumb fitness stuff, which is my dumb fitness stuff. Like just expect to, if they say it, you're like, okay, let's do it. And so the first one I did, was the 4 to 5 hour one. And then I also have found rucks, like Go Rucks, which is, I have my
rucks is great because I'm like, that's not running. I can walk. Yeah.
So I've done one of those, and just, after ultras and after, I've podiumed and now I'm doing all these ultras and I'm just like, well, kind of like what's next, right?
Spartan seems like a gateway drug. And it's like, what's next? What are you chasing?
I don't know. It was CrossFit.
I know.
They're all,
which thing was actually the gateway?
Yeah,
that's
which one
the
am I
question.
blaming?
Yeah.
How
probably
far back are we
cross
going
country.
Oh my gosh.
When you
the
were,
10 years, the glutton for punishment.
But these amazing results, though, too. You're just like, if I'm doing really well, why wouldn't I just keep pushing?
What's the natural next step? Right?
Yeah.
What's the
Keep
natural
pushing.
step of progression? Because I'm just going to sit here forever.
Yeah.
And so the death race, the most recent one, came about because someone I was working with, she's actually done one, and she actually used to work for Spartan, and we met, we got paired together as a head coach and studio manager, and she was hearing me talk about it. I was like, oh, I have this race coming up, or I have this, and she was like, oh, like, tell me about your race background, or how well you, kind of stuff, and she was just, I was just like, oh, death race was kind of happening. And she was just like, yeah, I've done that. And I was just like, shut up. Like, is this like a real?
Yeah.
Like, I've seen videos, and I've always been like, God, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
But like, never would I say, but same thing, like, I went back, I was like, oh, that'd be so cool, but like, I'll never do that. Here we go. Trends. It's a trend.
So what have you done recently?
And so she was just like, no, I think you should do it. And I was just like, well, you can't just do it. And so she sent me, what happened was, one night she sent me the link to the application, because you have to apply to do it. Like, you're not just going to let any Joe off the street do it. And you have to submit like all your accolades. Like, they have you like, what out of this list have you completed? And you do all that, and they're like, what else should we know about you? Why should we let you in? And I was like, well, I've done CrossFit comps. I've podiumed in CrossFit comps. I've done, my 10 years endurance background and all this stuff. And I was like, and I like put my phone down, and I woke up the next morning at like 7 a.m. to an acceptance email. And it was like accepted with like a little asterisk, and it was said, not much extreme endurance experience, but we'll take her.
Oh my gosh.
Dang.
And I was like,
dang.
Set the tone. Yeah.
I'm about to find out.
Yeah.
What did I do? And so it was just, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I guess we're doing the death race. This was in August of last year. I was like, I guess we're doing the death race.
I had no idea it was like on your radar like that early. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, because death race, so it happens in June, or summer death race. So there's winter death race and summer death race, and summer death race happens end of June. Yeah, winter, hard no. I have, believe it or not, there are boundaries. we do say no to something.
She's actually going to go apply for the winter
Oh
one
my
after
God.
this, I think.
So a couple people were like, so we'll see you in February? I'm like, no, you'll see me in June.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I applied, and then you start getting kind of all these emails, like you get like your acceptance emails, and you have these social media challenges. And so the first one I had to do was I had to do like a video of me doing hydro burpees with a rock the size of my head. That Alyssa actually got the rock. She was driving, actually, her and Scott were driving down the side of the road, and she was like, that looks like a good rock, pull over. And so they pulled over on like Ronald Reagan and Crystal Falls and this little construction zone, and she, like a Chinese fire drill, hopped out of her car, grabbed this rock, and like just like then they drove home. She's like, I have your rock and you can come to my pool to do it. So that was like, so I was like, I'll be right there. So yeah, then they send you like a social media challenge at the beginning of every month, and you have the end of the month to do it. I learned my lesson. I only did 2 of them out of like the 10 that I was given. So I only did 2 of them. Turns out they do benefit you to have completed them.
Oh.
I was like, I know I'm going to get smoked for not doing them, but like, I mean, how bad can it be? And then I was like, oh, okay. So no, this year, do your social media challenges.
Yeah.
So we're going to do better this year. But yeah, so the whole kind of year leading up to it, so a little background too is they emailed us a little bit earlier on in the year, and they were like, hey, what if we shifted the dates like earlier a day? This is not earlier. And we were like, no, I guess. I was like, I don't care either way. Like, I'm taking that whole week off. I'm going to get up there early. It's in Vermont. It's in Pittsfield, Vermont. So I'm like, I've never been up there.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a whole trip out of it. I hear it's beautiful. Also, I collect the Starbucks cups.
Yeah.
So
The
I was like,
mug
we're
ones.
going to make a little, okay, don't
Little
judge me.
mugs.
But yeah, I was like, let's make it a whole thing.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to take the week off. I was like, you guys can do it whenever. But apparently they got enough feedback. They were like, nope, we're keeping it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now, the longest any of these one has ever taken was 70 hours.
Okay.
So, like, could be like 3 days.
Yeah.
But they're designed for people to not finish. So I was like, well, I could be out there one day. I could be out there 1 hour or 70 hours. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you know anybody that was going to be there?
So my friend who got me to sign up, she said she actually did the submission video too, and she did apply, and I think she did get accepted because like she used to work for them, so she knows these people. She had some really big health stuff come up this year, so she wasn't able to make it. So yeah, I knew nobody.
Wow.
I knew no one going up there. I've never and a lot of like the people who are in Death Race too, like when it comes to Spartan races, at this point, because I've been racing so long and podiuming, you kind of get to know your people.
Yeah.
So like I have Rachel out in California who's like, she podiums everywhere. And like when I go out and I race that side of the country, I know I'm racing her.
Yeah.
And when I'm on this side, like I know, like I run into kind of the same people.
Yeah.
So it ends up kind of like I have, everyone's like, oh, you go to races alone. And I'm like, well, I go there alone.
Yeah.
But like I know people there. Like I'm
Yeah.
going to see my people from all over. And then going to the death race, like people are much more in like the endurance stuff. So like the 24-hour hurricane heats, the 12-hour hurricane heats, the people who are doing the 3-day agoge kind of stuff. And I don't know those people. Like that's not the door that door hadn't been opened yet. And so I went up there knowing absolutely nobody. And now I have some really great friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, a month out, they gave us our gear list.
So that's when you first saw the Rubik's Cube?
The Rubik's Cube, the eggs, the one beautiful peacock feather, like the list, like, I mean, it's the standard stuff that you would expect, and then it got, like, weird. But yeah, the Rubik's Cube, and so you're kind of looking at it, and you're just like, I mean, surely there's going to be 1 or 2 things on there, because the whole thing with the death race is they're really here to, like, mess with you.
Yeah.
Like, it's one, like, you're going to go out there and do dumb fitness stuff, but also someone's going to be right there being like, wow, doesn't quitting sound great?
Oh my God.
Don't you want to, you don't want to do this anymore? Like, they actually, one of the last minute gear items they had us print was one of the Cortea's pictures with the words, quit now on it. And they made us zip tie it to our backpack. So when you're walking behind people, like, you're just staring at this guy and it says quit now. And so it's like, we're here for the mental games too.
Yeah,
like, it's not just dumb fitness stuff now. And like, you kind of start realizing that kind of through some of the social media stuff. But that's, I mean, it's fun. Like, same thing with like kind of some of the GoRuck stuff. Like, they leave some stuff out that's like open to interpretation. Right. And so it's interesting. It was interesting to see once we got there too, everyone's kind of interpretation of a few different like pieces. And I'm like, wow, that was really smart. Like, so next year we're going to get more clever with the gear list.
Yeah.
We are. But yeah, so you get your gear list and it was like Rubik's Cube. So I was like, well, they're not just going to put that on there for fun. So I was like, I have 3 weeks to figure out this Rubik's Cube.
That's right.
And then, yeah, it was like the peacock feather. And so I actually posted the list.
I wish I'd, like, this Rubik's Cube is getting passed around this gym.
It became a whole thing around the gym.
Whole thing.
Yeah.
Sent a few videos myself. I'm like, hey, do this.
It was just cool, like, as everybody was learning, what's she prepping for, and just like it was like everyone was so excited here.
Sitting in the corner doing my Rubik's Cube, like shaking after a class. The first person, so Emily, she brought her son. She was like, oh, he'll teach you, no problem. And we finish a workout, and like he comes over and he's like, like, you want, like, here, I'll teach you. And I'm like, okay, like everything's still fiery, and I'm like, okay, and he's just like, turn this like that. So this is, I'm just like, the very first time I picked this thing up, he's like, just turn this like that, and I'm like, what, like what? And he's like, the top, and I'm like, this one, and he's like, no, this one, and I'm like, well, it was a whole, I was like, and he's like, maybe when you're not like this, and I was like, actually, no, this is exactly when I need to be learning. So, like,
this is probably when I'm gonna have to do
I'm
it.
I'm gonna be shaking or something and like totally out of it, and that's when I'm gonna need to know how to solve this. They're gonna be like, hey, solve your Rubik's Cube, and that was kind of ended up happening, but like it wasn't that bad. But it was, so he tried to help me. Tasia brought her daughter to try to help me. Mario was a huge, like, Mario was like kind of a breakthrough for me. Like, I don't know, whatever he did. One of the videos you sent me helped Tegan. Chandler's mom sent me this 4-part video.
Yes.
I watched for probably 12 hours.
Oh, wow.
There was one Sunday in particular, I think I spent 6 hours. Like, on YouTube, and I had notes, and so there's like a specific algorithm, but that wasn't making sense in my brain. So my notes ended up looking like the old video game codes, where it was like R up, L down,
left, right,
top,
up, down,
and like little arrows.
A B.
This is the part of the podcast that I hope, like, Drew's not listening. But go ahead,
Oh no, he and I have established. I send him lots of stuff now. Good luck to you guys. But so it was one, like, I spent hours, and I've like cried literal tears over this, because I feel like I'm a pretty capable person. Like, I'm fit, I'm fairly smart in most ways, and then I get this toy, and these kids, and everyone's like, oh yeah. And so my question of the day too, so I do a question of the day with my members, and I'm like, oh, can you solve a Rubik's Cube? And everyone's like, no, but my kid can. And I'm like, I feel like this is one of those skills that you learn as a kid, and if you know it as a kid, you just carry it forever. And if you don't learn it as a kid, you just don't learn it as an adult. You can confirm you can learn it as
like a language, though, right? Because
like,
there's stuff we can't detect. There's
like connections or something.
Of the mind.
And so everyone's bringing their kids, and I'm this grown adult who's fairly capable at stuff, and this piece of plastic, I'm just like, I mess something up every time. So even leading up to the night before, I texted one of my coworkers who was also helping me, sending me videos, like at his kitchen counter, he's solving just like you did. And I texted him back. I was like, if it comes down to me solving this Rubik's Cube, I'm doomed.
Oh my gosh.
Game day athlete. I got it on
Yeah. I was gonna say, plot twist. We actually have one here for you.
Yeah, I got
Okay, so plot twist. They made us destroy it.
Yeah.
They made us break it up. So after you solved it, you had to go down to the river, and they made you submerge your face underwater and like break it up into pieces. And that was like used later. They had to, the winners had to reassemble it after, like, that was their last task. It was like 50 something hours into it. They were like sitting on their bucket, like completely just. And their last
destroyed mentally
their
and
last
physically.
task was like reassemble a fully functioning Rubik's Cube out of everyone had dumped all of their pieces into one trash can, and they had to pick out. So that was like there were only 4 winners. But so the Rubik's Cube, they had you destroy it, and I got down there, and she was like, "Okay, now destroy it in the river," and I was like,
But I did this.
I'm kind of attached to this thing now.
This is actually the first time I've done this.
But the first time I ever did it completely by myself was on my boat.
Oh my gosh.
And there's a picture of me somewhere. I hope someday it gets released to me. But I'm like leaping out of the, I'm like, I did it! Screaming. And they were like, everyone looks and they're just like, what? And I was like the first time, I was the elation. That was a very high up.
Yes.
Right? There were lots of ups and downs, and that was a very high up for me. On my death race is this super Rubik's Cube.
Love that.
Fun fact, I actually ordered one, and it will be here on Saturday,
Yay.
so that I can still play with it.
So She started posting, like, we got obviously snaps and stuff on her story of when she was in Vermont hotel eating, like, my last like full meal, and
I was sending
the picture you had to post. It was like, what is it? I may die today, or I may die.
Yeah.
So then there's a huge like text message full of the girls like, have you seen anything? Have you seen anything at all? And we're just like, oh, we just saw this. They posted a video. She's there.
Yeah.
And then it was it Saturday morning? You sent a text to us.
Saturday afternoon. I texted Alyssa. I quit.
Yeah.
Because I very much so went into it. I was like, I'm a very mentally tough person. I've been through a lot, and I was like, I can't imagine anything like really like breaking me down enough to be like, I'm done here. Like I was like, they're gonna have to medically pull me, or I'm gonna get time cut, because there are elimination challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's designed for you to not quit. So 117 people signed up, 51 people showed up day of, and 4 people finished. So it's designed for us to have to come back next and find new things.
Yeah.
I quit 32 hours in. And it wasn't anything physical, and that's what really bummed me out most about it wasn't even like, so it was eating of a raw egg.
Mm-hmm.
And the eating of the raw egg, I was mentally, because they put the eggs on our list. So if it's edible, assume you're gonna have to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, like I've never ate a raw egg before, but like I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenge was, so backtrack a little bit. I had just had to drink 8 ounces of Tabasco sauce.
Cool.
So
I'm out.
I had to drink 8 ounces of Tabasco sauce. It was just not great, because then you're all phlegmy, and it's all the hot sauce.
Unless people know, like the closest I would even, back in College Station, I had a shot called a leatherneck, which was like that much Tabasco sauce, and it burned my throat for like a week. So that's the only reference I have to what you were probably feeling with that.
8 ounces.
Yeah.
It was hot.
Yeah.
And then they had us pencil roll 100 yards. And then they had us handstand walk, which actually, I don't know if you were part of that conversation, but in the intro email, they were like, things not to come with. Lighter, certain pieces of equipment. They were like, don't come with this. Don't come with the inability to walk on your hands. Or the anxiety of cold water. And I was like, and I said that to Alyssa, and I was like, I have 3 weeks, same thing with the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
I was like, I have 3 weeks to figure out handstand walks. I can't handstand walk.
Yeah.
But I was like, and she was like, don't you think they mean bear crawl? And I was like, that would probably make more sense.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. Right? And I was like, Rubik's Cube, handstand walk. I've been doing CrossFit now for almost 4 years, and handstand walk still is not happening. Mm-hmm. Let's try to figure out this Rubik's Cube. Yeah. So I get out there after we pencil roll, after I'm drinking this hot sauce, then sure enough, it's handstand walks. And I see no one, I think maybe 2 or 3 people could actually handstand walk, but we're like also in a field of tall grass. Like that's not the different CrossFit gym out here either. Yeah. But they were like, all right, now you're handstand walking. And it was like out to this tree and back. My guess is like maybe 40, 50 yards.
Okay.
Also,
so hot
sauce.
Yeah. The tears running down with the still in the throat.
Dripping all the different ways. But it you could tell some people have never even attempted a handstand walk. And I was like, well, I can't do it, but I call it the one-man wheelbarrow anyways when I attempt it here. So I'm like, all right, we're going to, but I could at least kind of do it. So I did make up a little bit of ground there. But still, getting upside down, I remember I was bent over one time because it's just sitting.
Ugh.
And one of the guys was just like, what are you doing? And I was like, I have a fire in my throat. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't come out of my mouth. There's lots of people who were not able to hold it back quite like that. But you handstand walk, and then you come in, and then so this was the final challenge. You had to pick a rock, a numbered rock. There were 5 flags out in the field, 1 through 5. 5 was the farthest. I picked 4. It's not like I had a choice, but I picked 4. We had to put our feet in our 5-gallon bucket, and we were on all 4, and you had to get your egg, and you had to put your egg in your mouth. Once it's in your mouth, you can't take it out. Mm-hmm. So, I am so phlegmy from the hot sauce, I could only breathe through my mouth. So I remember, for almost a week, it was so chapped. It was I had cracks on my lips. It was not good. Not pretty, not good times.
Yeah.
But anyway, so once the egg's in your mouth, you can't take it out to breathe, or I don't know when you've ever put a whole egg in your mouth.
Never.
No.
Yeah. I've avoided that.
No.
Most of my
life. I've had multiple people message me, and they were like, okay, so after I saw that, I went to my kitchen and I put an egg in. Alyssa herself, she was just like, I don't know how you did that for as long as you did, because I lasted maybe 2 minutes and my jaw started, and I was just like, and mind you, I've been doing this for 30 hours.
Yeah.
I'm out. I slept for 15 minutes at 4 o'clock in the morning. we're doing all this other dumb fitness stuff. And so it was put the egg in your mouth, feet in the bucket, and you had to hop out to your flag. There was a saying on the flag. You had to memorize it, punctuation and all. So, like, don't come back and not know where a comma is.
Gotcha.
Bolded, whatever it was. Don't break your egg. If you break your egg, you had to eat it, shell and all. Like, eat it.
Shell and all.
Shell and all. But, and I was just like, okay. But then I watched a few people, they did it. They broke it kind of right off the bat. And I'm still just coming in from my handstand walks, and they're starting already. And this girl broke it, and they were like, no, there's still some down there. And it came out, like, you know, whatever comes out of your mouth. Because it's like,
you gotta eat it. Yeah.
And it, like, comes out, and she's like, you're trying to catch it, but it's, like, going in the grass. And they were like, no, there's still some there.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, I watched her, like, get the egg out of the grass and, like, eat. And I was like, this is it for me. I'm not here for that. I was like, and so also, if you broke your egg, like, mid, out, and back, you had to go do 300 burpees before you grabbed your next egg. So we all had 6 eggs before you could move on. If you broke your second egg, it was 600 burpees. If you broke your third, it was 9. And if you ran out of eggs, you were out. And so I am, like, already at that point, I think that's when, like, when I watched that happen, that was the big shift in my mindset.
I might quit.
And I was just like, if it comes down to me, like, scooping raw egg and, like, meat, and I was phlegmy and I was tired, like, everything is just down. You're just down bad. And I'm out, like, and I'm hopping out to my flag, and I'm starting to cry, and I'm not a cry. For those of you who don't know, you can't imagine me crying, right? Like, we don't do that here. But I'm starting to cry because I'm like, I think, like, if this egg breaks in my mouth right now, this is it. We're done here. And then I remember I'm, like, down out. I'm hopping to my flag. So part of the overnight fitness stuff that we did. We had to take turns fireman carrying or wheelbarrowing each other, and we were doing that for 15 hours. And so you had to be either wheelbarrow, you were either the wheel or the barrow, for a half-mile loop, and you had to be each one for 6 laps. So I had already basically accumulated 3 miles of, like, walking on my hands and my wrists, and now I'm on all 4 with my feet, like, in the bucket, trying to keep the bucket on my feet. And I'm, like, hopping. I have this egg in my mouth, and, like, everything is riding on this egg in my mouth. And so I'm just down bad. And one of the cadre's daughter was out there. She's, like, 17, and she, like, was just kind of helping. Like, they're, like, observing to make sure everyone's good, make sure your egg doesn't come out of your mouth. And she came over, and she was just like, I'm gonna get to you before my dad does. Like, you're doing so good. Like, don't get. And I was just like, oh gosh. And so she was so, like, thank God for Sarah. She was so sweet. And then her dad did end up coming over, and, like, he tried to be tough for a second, and she was just like, Dad. And he knelt down, and he was just like, listen, I've been where you've been. Like, I know it's a really like, they're not monsters either. Like, a lot of people watched some of the videos that were posted, and they were like, these guys are just out there, like, just punishing you guys. And I was just like, okay, but, like, what you guys don't see is them actually, like, trying to get you to not quit. Like, when I threw my bib, like, 3 of them, like, swarmed over, and they were like, don't do, like, you know, they're humans. They are nice people. I'm friends with all of them now. Like, I like these people. It's just, you know, when game time, it's just different times. So he was actually really encouraging, and everyone, like, but anyways, so I made it all the way out to my flag, and I made it all the way back in without breaking my egg in my mouth. And it was like, so I related to that scene of Jurassic Park, the first one, where, like, the blonde lady Ellie, she, like, comes over the mountain, and she, like, sees the, like, building, and she's like, she runs in. It was me coming over this last little hump, and, like, I can see the barrel of the rocks, and I was just like, without, like, popping the egg. And I, like, get in, and I was like, huh, and they were like, yeah, you can take it out. And I, like, took it out, and I'm, like, trying to breathe. I'm, like, just closing my mouth for the first time in who knows how long. Hot sauce still is not
doing its thing.
Not a pretty sight, y'all. And they were like, hey, great job. Flip your bucket over, and now you're going to eat the egg anyways. And I was like, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. I was like, you're telling me that I do this dumb fitness stuff, and I make it all the way back, and the reward is still the punishment. They were like, well, the reward is really that you didn't have to do 300 burpees.
That's a good point.
Oh, that is a good point.
You're like,
I hate that you're kind of right on that.
But
I'm not scooping the egg out of grass and eating it. just little bits of dignity in here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, so let's negotiate a little bit. What if I crack the egg, pop it, bust up the shell, and eat it? Like, I was like, well, we're going to power through this. And they were like, no, you have to pop it in your mouth. And that's kind of where it came down to. I was like, I think that might be one of the audio clips that they hear in the video. Is I was like, well, if it comes down to me popping, or if it comes down to that egg popping in my mouth, or me being done here, like, I'm done here. And I took my bib off. That's the video that a lot of people saw. It was like me taking my bib off, and I tossed it in, and my face is like puffy. I was crying. And people are like, people who know me, but like don't, I don't know, kind of know me. They were just like, that like didn't even look like you. That was like, we were like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? And I was like, I was okay. I was sad, like, I'm like feeling like real valid emotions. But then it was a whole conversation, and that was Sad Me. Like, the video that they got and that they showed that they aired was like Sad Me.
We'll be sure to put the link in, don't worry.
Yeah. And then what really kind of set me off about it was I saw a guy go walking by with an orange in his mouth. Like one of the little mini, like, clementine oranges. And I was like, why does he have an orange? And they were like, well, he's allergic to eggs. And then I was just like, well, maybe pick something that's not a common allergy, because that's not even close to being fair.
Yeah.
But then you don't say that, because they're very much so like, well, life's not fair.
Yeah.
Like, they do things on purpose that are not fair. I was warned last year, or one of the years, they had like a fire building competition between two teams. The team who was able to build the fire first had to go complete the challenge, and the team who lost got to enjoy the fire. So I was like, I was just like, I know, like, don't ever say like, that's not fair. This isn't fair. Like, they're not about that. If anything, they're going to find an opportunity every once in a while to make it not fair. But I was like, yeah, but that's not even close to fair. Like, give me 5 of those oranges right now, and I'll do that.
Yeah.
And it just came down to, they were just like, no, like, but then they were trying to convince you, they were like, you're going to wake up tomorrow and wish that you had stayed. And I was like, I remember being out, hopping back and forth, thinking to myself, I was like, I'm going to quit over this egg. And that's why, like, it was already in my head. I was like, I'm going to quit over this egg. And I'm going to go home. And I'm going to tell everyone that I quit over not wanting to pop an egg in my mouth and scoop it out of a field that I've watched people throw up hot sauce and clam juice all over.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh yeah,
part.
there was people who are like hot sauce and clam juice too. Like, it's
in
like,
that field that
like,
it could have landed in.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm not doing it. I was just like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to tell people eating a raw egg out of a field was what made me quit. And not a single soul is going to be like, well, you should just eat the egg. Like, it wasn't that bad. Well,
Yeah.
she was saying that she was like, why didn't she just eat the egg? I'm like, it's easy to say that too. Like, right, when I was telling too, like, it's easy to watch CrossFit Games athletes and be like, I'd be doing my reps unbroken.
Yeah.
And I'm like, also, where's the 31 hours, 59 minutes, and 55 seconds before what you're seeing and what you think you'd be doing? Like, you didn't just go through everything that I just went through.
I can tell you, I saw that video and I said, yep, I'd been out too. So I was not.
I think every single soul that I've come back and kind of talked to about it, they're like, yeah, I'd have been out. They were like,
so what set me off was the comments on the video that they posted. That really pissed me off.
There were a few comments that there was like, wow, like an egg made her quit. And again, I'm just like, this is a prime example of you seeing like a 5-second video of someone and making all these assumptions. And like, you really have no context about this video.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing, there was one girl who said, all this stuff about the cadres. She was like, they're just elitists, they're just out there to punish you guys. And we're like, yeah, but on the backside of that, like, you're not seeing a lot of video parts that like are them be nice to us.
Yeah.
Or like, me and my partner actually ended up saving these 7 people by solving the Rubik's Cube for them. Go figure. I saved people
awesome.
for solving their Rubik's Cube too. And they were just like, hey, like, they wrote down our bib numbers and they were like, we'll make sure you guys get, some sort of reward for this. Like, we'll pay you back for this somehow.
That's awesome.
So they're like, it's same thing. Like, you can make all these assumptions from what you see, and it's really like, you know so much of just the surface.
Yeah.
So once you are done with it, you're like, bib is off. Are y'all just off to the side and watching people complete it, or y'all get bussed somewhere?
Well, so it's on a ranch. So it's on Joe DeSendo's ranch. And as soon as I finish, like I said, they showed kind of the sad Laura, and my hands at one point my hands were buried, and I'm just like thoroughly just genuine just sobbing in my hands. It's been so sad. And then just some other things came about, and then I got angry at them. And said lots of things. And then they were like, you're out. Like, I don't know why you guys are still talking to her. Like, she turned in her bib. And I was just like, you can have that too. And I'm trying to keep it.
Yeah.
Angry Laura is a different Laura. And then they were just like, you need to go. And I was just like, heard, I'm out. Like, I made that call anyways. So basically you go get your stuff. So when you've been doing these really long events, especially because we've been going overnight, so 32 hours later, once you've been going for so long, I think it's like 12 hours, they actually keep you to medically observe you for 4 hours. If you're driving, or if you're like Airbnb or something is like so far away, they're like, hey, where are you staying? Because when we first get there, you turn in your car keys, your phone, like I basically turn myself in. And so they had my car key. They took our watches too. Like at the very beginning, they were like, hey, who has a watch? I'm like, well, like a bunch of us, and they were like, everyone throw your watch in the bag. You don't get a clock. We didn't have a clock. Like my partner, bless him, his stopwatch had a clock feature, and he had set it before we got there. So we had a clock, and that's how we ended up working out like the naps. Like we both partnered up and took a 15-minute nap. But so we basically, like, once you're done, you go back to kind of base camp, you know, and they give you your belongings. But if you're staying so far, then they keep you there for 4 hours, and then they release you. And they have cots for you. They have cots. They have, like, you know, you can go back to your car and get like the rest of your snacks. You can get your phone, like, you know, and all that stuff. So I basically sat on a cot for the next 4 hours. Oh. But 2 hours after I quit was the time cap of that event anyways. And I kind of knew that, like, I could start piecing that together while I was, you know, hopping.
Yeah.
I'm looking around, and I knew I was, like, you know, only out to flag 1, or I was going out to flag 4, and I'm like, I have 4 more flags. And after the first one of hopping with it on your bucket, the second challenge was you had to go to your flag with your bucket on your head, crab walking backwards, and you couldn't lift the bucket to see where you were going. I watched people literally crab walk themselves in circles out there while I'm on the phone crying to Alyssa. And I'm just like I'm giving her, like, she got the first rundown of everything because she was my first call. And so I'm like sitting on my bin, drinking my water, like eating like whatever food I wanted. And I'm like kind of crying to her, and this person's like crab walking way past. And I was just like, I'm on the, I start talking to the person, and she's like, what are you talking? I was just like, sorry, I'm trying to help this person. I was just like, you went way too far. Go to your left. And they're like, like with a bucket on their head. I'm just like, I'm not mad that I quit right now. You guys look like idiots out there.
But you're such a good person. I'm just like, I'm not in this. Like, you're in there yourself.
No, well, that was also, so right after I quit, I went and I sat down and I kicked my shoes off. So you guys got the picture. My feet had been wet for 30 hours.
Oh my gosh.
So you can imagine what they looked
Shriveled.
like. They were like a different color.
Yeah.
And they were so bad. The medics even, like, I mean, all of our feet had been wet for that long. Yeah. So the medics, I remember, like, they kind of check you out. Yeah. And like we all were like looking at our feet, and they were like, you should probably let those dry out as quick as possible. But it's like raining outside. Like, and so like by this point in the race, like it was drizzling and it was raining outside. So I'm like, I literally can't.
What do you want me to do?
Dry them out right now. Like, they were so bad. But yeah, I went and I sat down next to my stuff before I even went into base camp to have to get my holding time started. And I'm sitting there, and one of my friends, Amelia, who I'm friends with now, but she came over to get like her next egg or something like that. And I was just like, she was like, oh, you quit, because it was a whole scene when I did. And because people are like stopping in the burpee pit, like looking over at me, what's coming out. And I was like, we're done. So I went and I sat down with my stuff, and she was like, and I was like, can I leave you anything? Like, can I give you anything out of my bag to help with your race? Like, can I get you farther by leaving you anything? And she was just like, honestly, no, I'm pretty close to tapping myself. Oh. And I was like, all right. And then I kicked my shoes off because I really just wanted my feet, like my feet were so done. And I was trying to help this one person who was like kind of right in front of me. I was just like, use both your hands, like go to your left. And one of the guys came by and he was like, no, you chose to be a non-participant anymore. You need to get your stuff and get out of here. And I was like, fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So that's when I got my stuff. I checked myself in, got all my stuff. But yeah, I'm like trying to help these people. And it just, because then the crab walk and then the third flag, whatever you pulled, you had to do like burpee broad jumps, all of this with an egg in your mouth and a new egg. Because if you make it back, clearly you would have to eat it.
So you would have had to keep eating eggs.
Yeah. 6. And they had been in our bag for like 30 hours. Like they were like, I bought one of the little camping like egg transporters. Yeah. So it had just been in my bag for like 30 hours out from like the refrigerator at Walmart. So I was like, oh.
A nice warm egg.
Nice warm pup of an egg in your mouth. Yeah. So I'm getting held and I'm sitting there like for 2 hours. I've already made my phone calls and like snacking away, talking to the people like working around the medics and stuff. And then like a wave of people came in. So 2 hours after I quit was the time cap for that anyways.
Yeah.
And you kind of start looking around and you're just like, so they ended up emailing us earlier on in the year to see if they could shift the dates because the ranch that it's on is also like a venue that people can rent. And we found out that there was a wedding booked for Sunday night. So we knew like kind of like later throughout the night of Friday night, like it kind of started making its way down the grapevine.
Yeah.
They were like, this is going to be a short one. Like there's going to be a major event that's going to cut a lot of people. And this is like, we got to be out of here by Sunday night. And so I looked at the egg challenge and I'm getting into it, like knowing what I know. And I'm just like, I'm not making it past this challenge. So when I looked at the egg, like there was a brief second where I was just like, you know what, just eat the egg. And I looked at it and I was just like, I can eat that egg, but I'm not going to do it 5 more times. And I'm not going to make it past this. So I'm not going to do it one time. We're done here. So I'm sitting there and 2 hours later, like everyone else comes in. And so we all start talking about it. 22 people got cut. Only 7 people made it on. And then only 4 people finished. And they went like overnight. They did like hikes back and forth. It's called Shrek's cabin. It's top of the mountain. And then they went over to Fiona's cabin. And they had like they had to find books in the woods, certain pages. And they had to build. So Sunday morning they had them like sitting on buckets, reassembling their Rubik's Cube, and 4 people finished.
Wow.
So, and then that night, a bunch of us met up and we went out for drinks. And at midnight, I apparently filled out an application for next year. So I applied and almost immediately got accepted. So a couple of us have already got our acceptances for next year. So I will be back in Vermont.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Are you sure you want us to publish this podcast? Because I heard all of this.
I know. There was a lot that was left out.
I
haven't done a full recap video, and I'm just like trying, because everyone wants to know like all the like dirty details.
But you also kind of want to keep it secret, because like that's kind of the point, right?
There's just so, and I'm just like, I can't let them know my secrets, because there was a moment in time where I was like, my race is going to be very short, and then I salvaged it.
Yeah.
All the clouds parted and the stars aligned and the sun shined down, and like I managed to salvage it. But there were a few times and I'm just like, God, it's like such a. I went to dinner with a friend of mine on Wednesday, and she sat down and she was like, I want to know everything. And it was like almost an hour, because I'm just like, oh yeah, like there was just so much that happened in that 32 hours. And I mean, the more I think about it, I'm just like, I could just write a whole book.
Yeah.
And it was just one of them. And there's a lot of the people that I met. So now the door is open, right? Now I know all of this new community of fitness people.
And so a good amount of them also submit their applications also?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a couple of us who are already like, we're in touch. And they're like, yeah, we got our application back. One girl, like this was like her 5th one.
Wow.
Like she's like a winner of the winter one. And they just kind of keep coming back. And you could tell, as soon as I got there, you could tell him, like, I was not necessarily, you're not treated as an outsider, but like, it's clear that there's connection.
They know.
And these people have seen each other, like, in these down and out situations multiple times. And they're like, oh, like, are you going to quit over that? You know, kind of stuff. And I'm like this new person. But now now I know people. So I'm going to go back next year and be like, oh, like, they're going to give me our, oh, hope eggs aren't on the menu.
Oh, gosh.
Please don't put eggs on the menu.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's going to start with eggs now. Like,
when do you get your list?
They send it like a month before.
Okay.
So I won't get it until May of next year. But I will be sure to do all of my social media.
We'll make sure you're getting those done.
No,
we'll help you out there for sure.
There'll be no question getting those done this year. But yeah, but with the death race, as far as my continuing fitness journey, it kind of shifted a mindset in me, actually, which has been really refreshing coming back to it. Spartan races, like I said, I've podiumed now all over the country.
Yeah.
Many times. Like I have one rack that's just my podium medals. And I'm just like, okay, so like we're good. We're like, we've not mastered, I'm not like top, but like top 10 female. I'm like, we're good there. I don't run any extra.
Yeah.
We don't run, which is wild.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, well, I've mastered this for like where I'm at and where I'm happy with. So like, again, what's the natural step of progression? Like what's next for me? So the death race was kind of a big, like, I'm like, I kind of like the dumb fitness stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
send me a gear list. Let me be creative with it. So like for example, one of the items on the gear list was a 2x4x6 piece of lumber.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at Lowe's in Connecticut, looking down the lumber aisle like I'm lost because I'm like, what am I? And I found like a 2x4x8, and I found like a 6x, and I'm just like, do they want me to have someone cut it? Like, what do I do? And then I found this plank that was 2 by 6 inches tall by 4 feet long, and I'm like, so I looked at it, and there was no markings on the gear list. It just had the numbers. So there was no there's certain things on the list that like going back now, I'm just like, well, I could have done better. Some guy actually had quail eggs for his eggs.
Oh, that's smart because they're tiny, right?
Yeah, you're gonna eat it. So like they're like, do you even have an egg in your mouth? And he's like, yeah, and it's just on his tongue. So I'm like, okay, so we're gonna get clever with the list next year. But yeah, some people showed up with like a 2 inch by 4 inch by 6 inch piece of wood. Yeah. Because we had to carry it everywhere we went. Yeah. And so I'm like, well, okay, so it's been a shift in my mind, and I've started looking more towards like the 12-hour go rucks. Someone else out there told me, they were like, maybe you should kind of look more into like the go ruck like selection stuff, or like just kind of like that world. And same thing with the Spartan races. I had done well, and then a lot of people, I've been following High Rocks for a long time. And I remember someone asked me like, have you ever heard of High? And I was like, dude, High Rocks, like I've been following it since like it's been started. So that's been something that's kind of on mine and Alyssa's radar. We've been kind of talking about it, but it's been a little bit of a shift in like what my next kind of conquest is going to be. So yeah, a lot of the longer stuff is I think going to be like the 12-hour stuff where it's just kind of a surprise. You just kind of have to rely on being fit. Yeah. Like you can't train for it. Like someone asked like, oh, how's your training for your death race? And I'm like, I don't like, you don't really train. You kind of just have to show up and like rely on being fit. Like, be capable.
That's been like a common thing I heard about people who train for High Rocks too, is they just do their CrossFit workouts, and that's pretty much all they do prep wise. Yeah. Because they're CrossFit movements.
So High Rocks that way. But even like with races and stuff, like I don't do extra. Like even as an Orange Theory coach, I'm grateful that I have the two different fitness worlds because I'm not getting burnt out on either one. Yeah. Like I believe for a lot of people, Orange Theory is probably their best option of a workout, and a lot of people, CrossFit's genuinely the best thing for them. Yeah. And they're like, some people it's one or the other. I do still do Orange Theory every once in a while because like on a good day, only half of my class is 3 miles on the tread, and then I still go hit dumbbells. So like it keeps my running mechanics and like functions and stuff up. But like I was never gonna get full pull-ups and rope climbs doing just that. Yeah. And so I do still mix the two. But really, I mean, like CrossFit for me and like my fitness goal just made more sense.
And you're an amazing example of like, and I don't know why this is becoming a recurring thing that I'm seeing on social media where like people who do these, oh, I'm a hybrid athlete. Well, CrossFit people are hybrid people because you throw that's the whole thing of it. Like we don't specialize in anything. No. You toss anything in the programming trades, and
exactly. I'm pretty good at a lot of things. Again, I'm just good enough. To get by. But yeah, just being adaptable. Yes. Because that kind of stuff, like you don't know what they're gonna throw at you. They might box jumps. Sure. Do that, like, climb a rope. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Run 4 miles. Run and swim 4 miles. And you're like, I can pull that out. Yeah. Sure.
So next month, like, these people at the games, they have no idea what the workouts can be, and Dave is like the ultimate like. What hybrid thing they're going to do Chad, right? They don't know what version of a Chad is going to come at them.
There's
so
going to be more stuff. Yeah. Everyone watching actually is going to have to do it with them. There's going to be sections. If your section is not done with Chad by the time cap is, you don't get to advance, is what I heard.
That's exciting.
Talking about crowd involvement.
Yeah, I know. We're all going to be doing step-ups on the bleachers in the stadium. Yeah. But yeah, he's great at finding those things that they're not working on, and you can't be prepared for necessarily.
There's some stuff out there you can't.
Everybody can step up on a box, but can you mentally step up on a box 1,000 times?
Yeah, and that it's a big mental unlocking for sure.
Fun thing with you is like I know for sure we have the Hawaii trip that's coming up. Yeah. But that's not sense now. I know there's going to be other stuff that comes up, and somebody's going to be like, "Hey, sign up for this." And you're like, "Okay, okay."
I have a hard time saying no. Yeah.
Thomas and I got the schedule worked out. I'll be there.
Yeah. We have a shared calendar. I'm like out of town this weekend. Yeah. Like, you're out of town then. I'm like, so yeah, there's that stuff, or CrossFit stuff.
Yeah.
I've been, like I said, I've been looking more into like a lot of like the 12-hour go rucks and overnight stuff. I did the Badass Babes one last year, which was a lot of fun. It's in San Diego this year, so I'm like considering that. It's an all girls.
Oh, fun.
Ruck. Yeah. You just go out and you do the work for overnight.
I wonder if they have that stuff like that here. Like, I'm interested to find out if there's like all female go ruck stuff, and I'm all about like throw the weight on and we can just go for a long distance. I love that stuff. I know. Running, I mean, I'll run. I'll do my 5Ks. I did my check in the box, do my half marathon last year. That's fine, but I just enjoy the rucks.
I always joked around to a lot of people. I'm like, I don't do this stuff because I like to run.
No.
I'm glad I have my cross country background. Like, I'm grateful for it. But I'm like, what was
those
I
obstacles
doing?
Yeah.
Like, why did I do that? Like, I don't want to go run 10 miles. Like, I don't want to. If someone asked me and they were like, hey, you want to go? Let's go sign up for the marathon. I'd be like, absolutely not.
It's a hard no on that one.
I don't want to do that.
But
there's 50Ks and there's obstacles.
Yes.
I'm on board for obstacles. A little bit.
Yeah.
You did that. You did a Spartan not too long ago.
We did all the 3. We got the the trilogy thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. But, I'm an experienced Spartan racer. Yeah. No, we did the sprint. Actually, we didn't do the sprint. We did the middle one, and then we did a stadium at Cowboy Stadium. Yeah. Lots of stairs on that one.
The stadium ones, yeah.
And then we did the Beast, and so we did that. The Beast, Ariel was pregnant. She was early pregnant when we did the Beast.
Gosh.
So yeah. Did that.
That was actually when I found out I was pregnant. I had just ran the Montana Beast.
There you go.
And I had an idea before I went, but I didn't want to know before.
Yeah.
So I like took the test with us to Montana, and I ran it, and then I slept for like 10 hours. Like, I like ran it, and I got picked up, and then we went back to the Airbnb, and I like slept for 10 hours. And then I was like, hey, I brought this. And so that was, I actually ran 2 races in very, very early pregnancy with her.
That's awesome.
It was just, you love
now
to
she's doing them.
She does do that.
Yeah,
my little 6-year-old.
Yeah.
She does her like kids Spartan races.
So great.
She's the cutest thing with that headband.
The
oh
little
my God.
orange, I know, and her little race face. She's a sweet little angel, and then she gets out there too. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. But her very first race, I remember she cried going over the little A-frame. Like, she was so scared. She's itty bitty now. She's a little peanut. But like, she got up to the top of the A-frame, and her dad and I are both on like one side trying to like help her, and she's like frozen. I mean, adults get that way too at the top of A-frames. Like, it's pretty high up there. And so we get her over, and then she was okay. She was a little scarred from it for like a little bit, but then I was going on my next race, and she was just like, Mom, I think I want to do it. She's like, I want to do the net. I want to be able to do the net. And I was just like, because I'm not like, I am so athletic and I'm so competitive that I've really been like, don't force them. Don't force that into her.
Yeah.
And she is just a sweet little thing. So I'm just like, I'm going to let her try to find that on her own. And she did. She was just like, I want to do that net. And we're like,
done.
Easy 40. Take my $40. Like,
yeah.
Absolutely. So now she does them. She's done a few of them.
That's awesome.
And she likes them too.
Does she know Mom's going to Hawaii for a race soon?
She does not, but she did know. So actually, funny with the death race, there was a little bit where she was just like, Mom, I don't want you to go to race camp because as I'm getting all
race camp, I love it.
Race camp. So I'm getting all of my equipment in, and it's like an axe, a handsaw, a tarp, like a sleeping bag, like emergency sleeping bag. And she's like, Mom, where are you going?
Going to race camp.
And I was like, well, I'm going it's called the death race. Like, and it's 3 days. I could be out there for 3 days. And she was like, where are you going to sleep? And I'm like, in the woods. I was like, held up my sleep. I'm like, in this. And so there was like a few times where she knew I was going to be gone for a week, and she's like, Mom, I don't want you to go to race camp. And I'm like, I'll never call it anything else.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, guys. So I'm like, oh, next year, I'm going back to race camp next year.
Oh,
I love that.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited you shared that with us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
All the fitness things. There's whole worlds out there that we just don't even know exist.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's, finding that next step.
No, but it's so in the spirit of what we're supposed to be doing, right? The learn and play new sports.
Absolutely.
And we do this not just to be working out within the gym. Get out there and show it off.
Use
and
it.
Yeah.
If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And just just adapt.
Yeah.
Kind of just get there and show up, and that's real life anyways, right?
Yeah.
That's physical or not physical. There's just things that you're going to encounter that you just kind of have to figure it out and adapt. And I love having this outlet and being as be as prepared as possible.
You want to be the type of person that puts yourself through these like tests, like mental, physical, everything. So
when
you never know.
Shirt, the book that Jim was reading, when the shirt hits the fan, you're kind of ready to go with it. So I have a lot of fun with that, and I'm super grateful I found Grand Mesa. I know that was like a big thing for me too, was finding a gym and like you said, chasing people. Like I was one of like the top females at like most of the gyms I had been to, and then I came to this one, and like Grand Mesa is very much so. I don't know if you guys very like strong women in this gym. And I look around, and I came in, and I'm like, I am like for reals the little fish in like a big pond. Like you adapt.
Yeah.
I have adapted a lot, and I've grown a lot in my CrossFit career in the last 2 years.
Well, I got to witness some of your PRs, which is pretty amazing.
A lot of like this cool stuff that I'm like, oh, turns out you can't and sometimes you just kind of got to try. Like
that's right.
With I'm just like, if you just really try, like just actually give it all you got. Like I think a lot of people would really surprise themselves with what they're capable of. Like you just kind of.
That's what I love. Watching people surprise themselves every day in here.
Yeah.
Just try.
So we're gonna go over real quick the stuff that's coming up. So
you're awkwardly.
Yeah, I know.
This is our favorite part when we have guests.
I didn't know that. Let me make
this was supposed to be kind of an eventful weekend. Armando and Evan were set to do an early comp this weekend, but that's got postponed.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Evan had like a back issue popped up, so hopefully now, when they get the dates, we'll have a few more people pop up. I think Armando's. I don't know if
Armando's trying to get into one still because he's trying to qualify for the American Open.
This
is like a last chancer here.
Okay.
He's going on vacation. He's like looking in Florida if he can sneak into one.
Wow.
So and he learned the total is actually less than he thought it was. So he's like, man, I can really hit this. Anyway.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So we'll be following that. We'll keep you updated to see where they're at on that. I know Evan has been wanting to get his first Olympic lifting comp in, and Cody's been amazing. If you're interested, Saturdays, they're here, I think about 7 in the morning.
Early.
I just know early. Leslie's been joining them. Mighty will join when she's able to, when she's not coaching on Saturdays. But if you want focused work on Olympic lifting, we have a group that meets here on Saturday mornings, usually about 7. So I'm supposed to have a jiu-jitsu comp this weekend. My partner backed out, so I and signed up for open class. So I have 2 females that are 170 plus, so they could be anything above 170 pounds. And I have, I think 3 light feathers. They're like a max 141 pounds. So hopefully a handful of them sign up for open class, and we just get to do kind of a cool bracket with that. So.
Well, if not, eventful, we're doing potty learning at my house.
Oh yeah,
weekend, so
it's an eventful weekend.
And we're trapped in the house for 3 days apparently. And this is my one outing of the weekend. I was allowed. So. It's
a battle of wills.
Yeah. Mental toughness.
Yes. We're learning it this weekend for sure.
Guys' Night is coming up here. Leave here on the 27th of July.
July 27th.
Muller's going to start busting out more information on that. I have a buddy who owns a package store in Cedar Park who's donating some drinks for the gentlemen for that night as well. So he's going to start feeding information out leading up to that date.
Yeah, about 6:30ish.
Yeah,
we're going to start.
Around the 7th and 8th of August, a bunch of us are hitting the road. We're going to go watch top 0.1% of the best that do CrossFit. Watch them do their thing, and then we'll be armchair quarterbacks. And why didn't he go unbroken? As we're tossing back our drinks and our snacks. So whatever. Right after that, a bunch of us are heading to Bryan College Station area for BCS Classic. A couple of us on the teams there. We'll recognize some other people
teams.
that are 3 teams.
I think we got 3 teams.
Okay. Same thing. Like we'll recognize some people that are here from the Austin area, or people who've done BCS in the past. We'll see the group from Mayhem out there. Because they do the programming and all that.
Rich will be there, his team.
Yes.
So if you want to come watch, it's not that far of a drive.
Down
Saturday and
College Station, land of milk and honey. I mean, amazing food there, great people.
True, but,
you better be cool with people saying howdy to you because they're amazing and
I like to walk on the grass down
there. Barcode, first weekend of October. Early Bird is getting launched really soon. It's
the 12th, so we got 3 days.
Yep.
So Monday, early bird prices $135 for a team, male, females. Here, October 5th. More details to come. Signing up early is cheaper because you don't get to know the workouts. We'll release the workouts like August 15th-ish, plus or minus, with some standards and stuff.
Guys, find your girls. Girls, find your guys. Ask that important question. And
then tell your friends.
Yeah. Best Babes is coming up, all-female comp. That's going to be at CrossFit Lake Travis. Great group there. They've, I think their flyers are up. I don't know if registration's open yet, but it's teams of 2 is what I'm seeing.
In the next couple days.
Yeah.
Maybe a day or 2 after us, but teams of 2.
That's going to be teams of 2, all-female comp. They are going to have some teens doing that as well, so I'm excited.
And I believe the money goes towards breast cancer research and stuff. Support things, so
And then a bunch of other qualifiers are going to be popping up. TFX, we all do that because I think the comp is in January. So fun, exciting. We're going to start seeing the temperature drop at some point, late September, October. I don't know. We'll
December?
See. I know.
What? November?
I know.
Thanksgiving.
I know.
We haven't even hit August yet. We haven't even hit highs. Calm down.
Wishful thinking.
You're getting way ahead of yourself.
We really haven't. We have not hit like as hot as it was this time last
now it's
year.
Going to be 100 next week.
Is it really?
I don't know. Just because we're talking
she said
about
that.
it. Yeah,
I know.
Like,
well, thanks.
Yeah.
Good job, Rebecca.
That's all I got.
I think that's everything. We'll see y'all in the gym. Next week's deload week. We're going to mix it up a little bit. Not a lot of barbell.
Great job to everybody who PR'd. Tons of PR this week.
Lots of PRs. And if you didn't PR, great job showing up, working on form, hitting a heavy lift. I know I didn't hit a PR. So
not every day is a PR day.
That's right.
I PR'd my strict press. That's all. Yeah.
That's right. I wish I had a video of my 20-minute strict press yesterday.
You and Candace.
Oh, man. Yeah. That was fun. This has been TalkFit. Thanks, Laura, for showing up.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We'll see y'all maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks. We'll see. Summer's been